Creative ruts are incredibly frustrating, and right now I'm in quite a creative knitting slump. And I think I know what I need to do about that. And it turns out that it may be just the opposite of what I really want to do. Hello, 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 and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Midweek Ramble. My name is Tayler, and I will be your host. Today's video is going to be exactly that, just very much a ramble, probably on the short end, because I have some thoughts I want to share with you guys, and these aren't scientific thoughts. I definitely haven't tested this theory, but I just really want to dive into it a little bit because right now, as we speak, I am in quite the creative rut when it comes to knitting. I'm not very motivated to work on anything knitting related. I'm just very much in a slump right now. Maybe that's because of the time of year and the temperature outside. Maybe it's just one of those seasonal slumps that we all go through in whatever creative realm we're a part of. And I have this theory, and it just dawned on me like yesterday about how you can pull yourself, or how you may be able to pull yourself out of a creative slump. And of course, today's video is focused on knitting, really. So if you happen to be in a creative rut or a knitting slump or what have you, this might be a video for you, and you can let me know some of your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're happily knitting away on all the projects, then maybe just take this as an opportunity to have something to watch to keep you entertained while you work on your project. Okay, if you're a viewer of the channel, you know that my knitting has just been real slim lately, and I think it's been like that for about a month and a half, and I'm not surprised because when I do have knitting slumps, this is around the time of year that starts to happen. And it doesn't change the fact that it's very, very frustrating for me. I thought that it was maybe because I was looking for something a little bit more summer or small, or I just really wasn't interested in the woolly, more autumn-inspired knits that we usually get ourselves up to. But I'm not so sure that entertaining those notions and steering clear of the woolly knits and just focusing on summery small things is really the answer to pulling yourself out of a knitting slump. I think that if you find that you're not motivated by something in particular, or the thought of working on that project is what's keeping you from doing whatever your craft is, I almost think that you need to take a sip of the hair of the dog, fight fire with fire, but ultimately do the thing you're really not motivated to do. So for me, it does seem to me like it's something about the heat, the weather. I live in Southern Nevada. It is very hot. We're actually in the middle of a heat wave. The next several days, it's going to get up to 118 on some of those days. And I can blame the heat until I'm blue in the face, quite honestly. And it makes some sense. Okay, this is not the most inspiring weather for knitting. Okay, but I kind of think that I need to set that down because that's not primarily what is going on here. I don't know why I am in a creative slump. I don't know why anybody experiences creative slumps in particular areas. All I know is I'm having one. And when it comes to knitting, the last thing I want to knit right now is a woolly sweater. I don't want to knit a woolly sweater. It's not because I don't like woolly sweaters. It's because there's just something about the idea of knitting a woolly sweater is turning me off. But that, to me, seems like some kind of an external thing because of the heat. Because I tested my theory here, and my theory is being that if I don't want to knit a woolly sweater and all of that is kind of perpetuating this knitting slump that I'm in, then I probably need to knit a woolly sweater. And so, like I said, to test this theory, I hopped onto Ravelry yesterday. I actually went to the coffee shop away from my home so that I could be kind of focused on my laptop in a coffee shop in a very neutral environment. And my point was to go on Ravelry and see if something inspires me. Not that I have to knit this, not with any kind of pressure to actually adopt a project, but to see what is inspiring me. Because if it is true that really all I feel like knitting right now is socks and summer garments, then those are going to be the things that I'm drawn to, that I feel attracted to most. So I went to the coffee shop and I tested this theory. And let me tell you, I was incredibly drawn to not only woolly sweaters, but color work sweaters. I don't know what it was. All the pictures, everything I saw, I was motivated by those color work woolly sweaters. And I felt like a scientist who had discovered something. It was super nerdy. I just had this moment where I realized when you don't feel like doing this creative thing, and that whole idea of even doing that is causing you to not do anything at all, then chances are you need to do that thing, because that's the thing that's going to break the slump. I haven't tested this officially yet, not completely, but I'm ready to test it because I think there's something to this. So for example, if you're a painter and the idea of sitting down and doing a full-size canvassed piece just completely puts you off, the answer might not lie in tiny little, projects and studies and things like that. The answer might lie in actually biting the bullet and tackling a larger project, the thing that you're not motivated by. I might be wrong. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section, but this is kind of where I'm going with this. So even though I have been working on a pair of socks, my work on these socks has been kind of slow. So I do have 2 socks going. Like, look, evidence that I have been knitting. I have a sock, I have a heel, and I am working on these. They're in the works. They're going. And I'm happy with them, and I do enjoy working on them. They're small, that I can sit down and do a little bit on them, but it's not that driving force that's just making me, I don't look forward to sitting down and just working on these socks. If they're there, I pull them out and I work on them and it's fine. So it's not really helping me come out of my knitting slump. So what I decided to do is, like I said, go on Ravelry and see what inspires me. And then when I realized it was woolly sweaters and color work in particular, I went through and found a few patterns that might be worth a look. Something that might actually take me from just looking at Ravelry to purchasing a pattern or pulling something out of my library, downloading it, and casting on to a swatch. So here are 3 patterns that I found, and one in particular that's inspiring me to at least swatch. Okay, the first one is a pattern called Cleo. This is a top-down circular yoke, really lovely stranded color work pattern. I'm shooting for sport weight yarn because if I'm going to do this, I figured I wanted to use my lovely Valley Wool cone of yarn that I have here. This is a sport weight 100% Nevada Merino Rambouillet yarn. This is the yarn base that I use to dye my Born Shorn and Dyed collection. This is natural gray. I typically dye the ecru color. However, I have a bunch of this and I want to use it. So when I was doing the search, I was focusing on sport weight yarn. This particular pattern looks like it could be a sport weight or a fingering weight. It looks like it's something that could work for both, but I really love this. I love it because I like the shape, the silhouette. I like the simple color work. It's just a really nice all over shape and design. So this is one of them. Okay, this next one is called Pinasa, and this is a design by Elena Solier Janza. Again, pronunciation may not be correct, but this one is gorgeous. I really love the shape of this. It has a very rustic style. It's kind of open and oversized, a little bit of a boxy fit. It looks like it's great for wearing over a dress like she's wearing it here. But what I love most about this is the motif. She's going for kind of a conifer look, so it has this like pine tree look, but to me, it's very Southwest. I love a Southwest color work motif, and this is absolutely gorgeous. This is knit also with sport weight yarn, and it looks like, yep, just a circular yoke, top down, all in one piece sweater, and she says it's gently oversized, which I really love. So this is my second option, and if I were to make this, and this is kind of honestly, this is the one that's pulling towards the front for me, I would be knitting it with this yarn again, and the contrasting, I'm thinking I want to use this DK weight silk mohair yarn that I've just kind of had for a long time, just because it's something different. I figure let's go real woolly. Let's go real opposite of what I'm kind of feeling inclined right now to use. So that's kind of where I'm going in terms of color work. And I think in this particular design, it would be gorgeous. Okay, this last option, and I'm obsessed with this one as well. It's really kind of, it's this one and the one I just mentioned that are kind of like vying for that front position. And it's kind of funny because this also has like a upside down pine tree look. This is the Limpkin, and this is by Andrea Gahn. The inspiration for this sweater came when I had the fortune of getting a close look at a limpkin on the St. Johns River in Florida near my home. These tropical wetland birds have a gorgeous gradation in their plumage from white to a deep rich brown through radiating triangle shapes. They are well suited to blending in as they forage for their favorite food, apple snails. I think it's just so pretty. I love that motif. Real kind of almost it looks like it has like a Space Invaders kind of look to it, but I absolutely love it. I love the colors here, very similar to the colors I would be working with. I like that it has an applied neckline that's rolled. I believe that's applied, meaning that it's picked up and added after the fact. But this is really pretty. It uses a sport weight yarn. I have plenty of this yarn to go on. And yeah, so that is the Limpkin by Andrea Gaughan. I believe it's Andrea Gaughan. Yep, by Andrea Gaughan. So those are the 3 patterns that I'm thinking. And honestly, I think it's between the Limpkin and then what was the other one? I forget the name of the other one. The Pinasa. So between the Limpkin and the Pinasa, I'm leaning more towards the Pinasa because I really love that southwesty looking conifer motif, but that Limpkin is really cute too. Honestly, just looking at these now with you, it's just starting to drum up some inspiration, some motivation. I'm not 100% sold on the idea of knitting a woolly sweater right now, but I'm far less not sold than I was before I even started this video. So, I mean, that's saying something. I'm starting to feel better about it. And to kind of be proactive about all of this and to front load this experience, I decided to go ahead and swatch with this yarn. I'm not going off of any of the gauge instructions for any of those patterns. I decided what I want to do is gauge swatch or knit a swatch of this yarn with the needle I would use for this yarn as like the main fabric, and that's a size 4 needle. And that's a little on the larger side because I want the fabric, I don't want it to be too dense. So I decided to go ahead and start swatching an in the round swatch, which is what I have going here. I just started this like this morning and I haven't had a lot of time to do much on it, but I'm going to go sit down and work on some more now. And then what I'm going to do is once I decide on the pattern, it's probably going to be between those last 2. I will use this gauge swatch to determine which size I would knit in that pattern. If you want to know what I'm talking about and how to do this wizardry, you need to watch the video I link here and down below in the description box. It's great. You can kind of just knit your swatch with the needle that you want, and then you use that swatch to determine the size to knit in your pattern. It's kind of like backwards swatching, but it's so much more intuitive. So definitely check out that video. That's what I'm going to be doing here. And I'm not 100% sold on using this as my contrasting yarn. I think it's a fun idea. If I don't use this, I will use an undyed skein of this Lovely Valley wool because I want this to show off the yarn in its natural color before I dye or before I knit a garment with the yarn dyed by me, if you will. So that's my thoughts. That is my theory. My theory is that if you are in a slump, and in the case of me, it's a knitting slump. If you're in a knitting slump and you find that knitting socks or knitting hats or knitting sweaters is just completely off-putting and you have no interest in that, but you're really wanting to get out of your knitting slump, then choose one of those off-putting projects and start looking at patterns in that realm, and you'll start feeling weirdly inspired by them. And then make yourself cast onto one, or at least do a gauge swatch for one. Do the thing that you really don't feel like doing. Have a little nip of the hair of the dog, if you will. And that's what I'm going to try here. So fingers crossed. I don't know, heat wave, Southern Nevada, and knitting. It just really doesn't sound good to me. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try because I hate being in the midst of a knitting slump. It's really a crummy feeling. Yeah. So I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to get out of this slump. Thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble. I know this was just quite a ramble, but it feels good to be able to sit with you and chat about it. If you have thoughts on this, let me know down in the comments. I could really use some advice. If you're in a knitting slump, let me know. Misery loves company, y'all. But until we meet again for the next episode of the podcast, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.